let's talk about Truck Parking Club, a little bit of truck parking in general, and let's dive in. What's your background? How did you get into truck parking?
So my background has really been um, real estate for the last,
Okay,
I don't know, 7, 8 years now, where
interesting.
went to school and got a civil engineering degree, went into construction, and from that, I branched out into doing real estate deals. I had really been into residential real estate from a pretty young age, just getting acquainted from my grandfather. When I was younger, he was kind of into residential real estate, buying rental properties. Kind of the American dream, I would say, of like
Yeah.
buy a rental property, then buy another, then buy another, and he got me involved in one of the ones he was doing when I was in my teens,
Okay.
and I just caught the bug, I guess, and I didn't know it at the time, but that kind of got me into residential real estate in my late teens and then my early 20s, buying a lot of properties. And I was in the corporate world for a year out of college and ultimately went out on my own and started flipping houses. And from there, got into large commercial land development deals over the course of a few years, doing bigger and bigger deals. And when I was doing a commercial, really industrial deal back in 2021, I found out about truck parking on that particular deal because the property was zoned industrial, but the
Hmm.
municipality was telling me that they couldn't put truck parking there. So that's when the
Interesting.
light bulb flipped on, and I was like, "What do you mean you can't put truck parking on, an industrial property?" And then
Right.
I found out that it's actually a huge issue, and no one wants more of it, but there isn't enough of it. And from there, kind of over the last couple years, really getting acquainted with people in the business, getting to know people, went out and tried to buy truck parking, operational truck parking, and real estate that had truck parking on it, and
Hmm.
found through that it was a hot real estate market while I was doing it, but also to scale it to massive size is actually pretty operationally difficult.
Right.
So after talking with people for, I don't know, 12, 18 months, um, came into what is now Truck Parking Club, where we just leverage technology and leverage existing space. So we don't have to build more space. We just take space that's already there.
Got it. So you
And
guys are trying to basically solve a pretty massive issue in the industry with truck parking, right? I mean, how big of an issue, Evan, would you say the truck parking is? I know that a lot of the bigger associations say that it's a top two to top five problem. Where do you think that's the case in this? Do you think that's the case?
yeah, I would definitely say it's probably, mentioned in a top three by most associations, by most companies would directly say that it's a top three problem. Um, and it's super interesting that it hasn't been figured out yet, that it hasn't been, what is the word, consolidated.
Yeah.
And not even consolidated in the sense of like one owner, but
Hmm.
consolidated in the sense of like there's 15 spaces here, there's 12 spaces here, there's 3 spaces there, there's 9 spaces over
Yeah.
there. Now trucker, you can come onto one platform and book that available space now, know it's there
Right.
when you get there. Like it's just super interesting that that hasn't been created in mass. I think there's been many companies that have tried to do it in some form or fashion. I think there's been many companies that have done it where you don't know real-time availability, but it doesn't really solve the problem
Right.
because we have a truck parking shortage, but we also have a truck parking awareness shortage, which is, you can have 100 spaces a mile away from you, but if you don't know they're there, are they really there? You know?
Exactly. No, exactly.
Um,
And go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that's our goal. That is the types of things we're thinking about as we build this company and getting feedback from our customers.
Now, why do you think truck parking has just kind of, I guess, for the a lack of a better phrase, like thrown to the side? Like It seems like no one wants it around, yet it's so needed in the industry. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's a good question. People, the average homeowner isn't going to want it near them because the assumption is it will lower the value of their properties. It's loud. It's there's crime, all these things, right? These are all mostly stereotypes. Um, and because of that, no one wants it near them. Now, we in no way think it's okay for truck parking to be in residential communities. We don't support that.
Right.
We get that question more often than you would think from people like, do you support trucks in residential communities? And we do not. I wouldn't want to, truck and trailer parked in my community. I wouldn't expect anyone else to have to do it.
Yeah.
And there's tons of code and zoning laws that kind of take care of that, but we're not in support of that. But we are in support of utilizing empty spaces that could be adequate for truck parking now. Um, what was the second part of your question? You asked me about having truck parking near them, and then was it building more of it? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so no, you're okay. So why, I guess, why isn't it more available, or why isn't it being more, I guess, considered, whether that be
Yeah.
like on a state level, a federal level, to really take care of these drivers?
Yeah, so I think it's just human nature, where if the issue isn't right in your face, then why would you ever do anything about it, right?
Right.
There's plenty of analogous examples that you could say, and I don't want to get into politics or anything because it's not here nor there, but the if the problem isn't in your face, directly affecting you, so I would say the fastest way to see change from like a state or federal or even local level is every time you buy an iPhone or every time you buy a pair of shoes, you see, a 20% fee or a 10% fee, and it says supply chain charge,
Yeah.
or it says, let's say it's a 5% fee and it's a truck parking charge, which
Hmm.
that'll never happen, but
No,
let's just
absolutely not.
say, let's just say it happened. Things
Yeah.
would change very quickly.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I think, just to not get into politics, just going back to the boom of the pandemic and all of the volume spiking, and people really realizing, kind of like what you said, if it's not in their face, well, everyone started to see what the supply chain is, how it affects them on a day-to-day basis, and really how things are getting to them on a more granular level than they ever had before, because it impacted them, right? They weren't able to get certain things in a timely manner the way that they thought. Amazon shifted, away from their 2 day for a long time to say, hey, it'll be, 3 day, maybe 4 day. I'm here in Houston, and we have DCs all over the place, and it was still taking 3 or 4 days to get things because the volumes were just so incredibly high. So it just goes to show, kind of like what you said, if it's not in your face, the people aren't talking about it and aren't trying to advocate for that change to allow for more truck parking.